I think people often trapped in, jargons like
Yeah.
energy transitions, climate crisis, climate change, and etc., without actually knowing that it's happening around us and that we use energy every day.
Hi everyone, welcome back to Global Future Talks as part of Global Future X movement by Pijar Foundation. Back again with me, Cazadira F Tamzil, in today's very special episode, which is a collaboration content that we're developing with Indonesia Mengglobal, a youth community that focuses on inspiring and equipping young Indonesians to basically pursue professional and academic opportunities abroad. EM is a very special organization for me. I volunteered there for 4 years, and I'm very, very excited that today's podcast speaker was basically my mentor. She was my editor-in-chief when I was the editor for UK Europe, when I was studying at the London School of Economics and Political Science. And let's welcome Marlistya Citraningrum.
Hi, everyone.
Hi,
Nice to meet you.
Chitra. Very nice to meet you, and thank you for being with us here today.
Sure.
So basically, Chitra is one of what you call a very inspiring Indonesian overseas graduate that has, really built a solid track record, especially in the field of energy transition and sustainability. And energy transition is the issue for our program this year called Global Future Fellows. And this is why we want to feature you and basically hear about your story, how you used your experiences studying abroad to basically making a difference in the field of energy transition in Indonesia.
Okay. Very feel honored to be here, actually, and I don't think I would use the word inspiring because I have just performed what I'm really passionate about, and I try to make contributions to the society. So thank you for having me here.
Thank you so much once again, Chitra. And special thanks to Indonesia Mengglobal for basically making
Yes,
this collaboration happen.
This is our community, right?
Yeah, our community, basically, it all started at Indonesia Mengglobal. So thank you very much. So Chitra, do you want to start us off with basically your journey, your background, how you basically got into the field of energy transition and sustainability, and what was your story basically studying abroad?
Okay. So I came up from a very modest family, so to say. I pursued my undergraduate degree in Surabaya, Indonesia. And then when I was studying there, one of the one of the professor basically asked me if I had the willingness or whatever is it, do you want to go studying abroad? Because there was that opportunity that he was building a network with other university abroad, and I said I think I want to, but I don't really have the information to do that. I don't know what I would be studying there, and basically I don't have the financial means to study abroad. And then he said that I will open that door for you. That is very nice of him, and up until now I consider him as one of the influential figure in my life and in my academic experience. So then with his guidance, then I apply for that scholarship abroad in 3 countries at that time: Taiwan, Singapore, and also Australia. I was studying chemical engineering, but more on the focus on the environmental engineering and environmental management, waste and wastewater treatment, etc. And then I got the scholarship, and I picked Taiwan as my country of choice.
Very interesting though, like why Taiwan? And basically what did you study there specifically?
Okay. I think not many people knows about Taiwan per se as a country, and with our current political issues, Indonesia also has this stance that it only recognizes China as a sovereign country and not Taiwan. And back then I was thinking, should I go to Singapore, which is closer to home, or Australia, that's completely new, or Taiwan, a country that I didn't know exactly about the culture or education system and etc. And actually it piqued my interest because it's the least country that I knew about. I searched information about Taiwan, and I know that they're very advanced in their education system, in engineering. They're the country that currently have the biggest semiconductor manufacturing industry. And even with that unfortunate situation with China, it's still present in the global stage. So then I picked Taiwan, and I was still studying chemical engineering. I did a fast track line, so to say, yeah. So I didn't have a master's degree. I went straight into PhD. So I spent 5 years there studying chemical engineering, still with the focus on environmental engineering. So I did a lot of research on waste and wastewater treatment, also on water and energy nexus and biofuel.
Okay. So we've talked about why Taiwan, but then, the fundamental question is, why study abroad? After studying abroad, what did you get from studying abroad that you feel you wanted to share with people?
I think at that time I felt that this was the only opportunity that I have to go abroad, because I don't have the financial means and limited informations. And I also want to have something that that I can offer after I finish studying there, because I felt that I already have the basic informations to do my professional work after undergraduate degree, but then I also have the intention of going deeper into a specific issue, and that's something that I can get into going abroad and studying there. Also, I have the chance to know other culture and build the network. And I think back then, especially because I took the fast track line directly straight to PhD, I felt that studying something so specific and at that long time, 5 years is a long time. I gain a lot of understanding on how the industries work, how academias work, and also how to build my own resilience, because research was hard. I will not lie that 5 years was really hard time for me, but then I actually graduate, and then I can go back and use my knowledge to do something useful.
Yeah. And I think when you go abroad and then you meet new people, and then you maybe live for a very long time with people who are basically not your fellow
your circle,
within your circles, I think it helps to build your resilience, as you mentioned, right? Because there is no option but to survive and
It's
basically look and leverage all that you have within yourself to basically survive in another man's country. Right?
So there is this personal reasons that I sometimes I don't talk about this a lot. I'm a very introverted person, so it's very hard for me to socialize with people or to get open to people in many settings, social setting, professional settings, and my father recognized this weakness, but I don't consider it as a weakness, right? It's this character early on, so he pushed me to go not in something that's familiar, please study somewhere that's very far away from home, please meet new people, something that sounds strange to you, so that you have the skills to survive, because it's very hard for introverted people to perform if they don't recognize this as something that's useful and not as weakness.
Yeah, I definitely do not think introvertedness is a weakness, because I myself also is an introvert. Fellow introverts. And one of my best friends actually gifted me this book called The Secret Strength of Introverts. And I think, introverts or extroverts, they have different strengths. True. It's just a matter of how you use and leverage those strengths, right?
100%.
So we've talked about resilience, but also another part of studying abroad is obviously being exposed to new education systems. And what do you see is the main difference between Taiwanese education system and Indonesian education system? Just in basically, not necessarily the subject per se, but more like how issues are taught, how lecturers teach and interact with students.
So Taiwanese is pretty much copying American system
Okay.
In education, because many of the professors there are US trained, and so they have a lot of freedom, I would say, in supervising their students and also in teaching. I enjoy that so much because I'm not someone who's very comfortable being micromanaged.
Yeah.
Sometimes there is this stereotype about Asian education system that's very, there is a lot of seniority, that you have to follow a strict rules and etc. But I think I was lucky because my supervisors are very nurturing, and he had a lot of contacts and networks as well. So I found that even if you don't have the facility to do research, or you don't have that person who can guide you through a specific issue, then you can easily network with other universities or even research institution, non-academia. So I found that my 5 years there was very, very, for me, it's an ecosystem that I would like to copy to Indonesia, actually. But I'm not working in academia, so maybe what I can get from that education system is that I want to also build a professional environment that's open-minded, collaboration style environment, and also to my professor always said that if you don't know, then you can always find someone who knows out there. So don't be afraid to ask and to network.
That's very interesting, because I think, well, myself as an Indonesian, like, I have a tendency to not want to ask. I don't want to bother people, or I feel ashamed for asking and things like that. But it's very encouraging that your professor actually said, no, you have to go out there and try to network and basically find the answer that you need, right, from other people.
Oh no, I miss him, It's been a while.
Yeah. Hopefully he listens to this podcast, and then
sure.
you can reconnect with him. That's amazing. But it's interesting what you said also, that out there in Taiwan, the academia is very open to industry and basically other sectors, I'm guessing, right? And so maybe it doesn't apply there, this notion that academia is like an ivory tower, where basically you just do research for the sake of doing research, but you actually try to use that research to make it practical enough.
I think this has to do with Taiwan's position that's very unfortunate in the global landscape. They need something that can be their competitive edge, and that one thing is probably the human resources and technological advancement. So they work very closely between academia's, research institution and then industrial to build something that can propel them into the global landscape. And I saw that many times students that already graduated from the university, they came back to the university to give back in terms of grant or some assistance, but also to bridge innovation from the universities and bring them into the industrial environment.
That's very interesting, and it's also very in line with what we do here at Pijar. We basically promote the spirit of collaborative governance. In a sense, it's collaboration between multiple different sectors, public, private, community. But I think even within the community sector, as you mentioned, maybe there needs to be more openness as well, in that academia, people can go back to academia and then help to bring some research into market, or turn that into actual products.
Because in Indonesia, we've seen so many times that a research is just a research. After it's finished, then you keep it in the drawer somewhere without actually going into the market or implementation.
Which is very unfortunate, but hopefully with people like you, we can really bring some reforms in the education sector. So hopefully. So you graduated from Taiwan, and then you came straight to Indonesia. So what did you do? What got you into the field of energy transition, which is a very interesting issue?
It is. But I did not go straight into the energy transition sector. So because I went straight from bachelor to PhD, so I didn't really get enough experience, to me, sufficient perspective, so to say, on how I should implement what I acquired abroad. So I spent about 2 years finding and knowing Indonesia in a more holistic way.
Yeah.
I work for an organization that's specialized in teaching and community development in remote areas in Indonesia, because then I got the chance to understand what's the problem in Indonesia, how big this country is. The problem is so complicated, and how you have to see this problem from different perspective. Because I was born in Java Island, I was educated there, and then I went abroad. I felt at that time that I was really privileged, and if I want to apply what I get abroad, then I will be lacking inclusivity to see what's the problem. And then after 2 years, I finally get the sense of what I want to do. Then I go to an organization that work focusing on energy transition, green economy, and also environmental issues. And I think that the experience that I got from 2 years working in non-energy issue actually helped me to see this problem more clearly.
Yeah. And what you mentioned about inclusivity is very important when we talk about energy, right? And you know, you and I were chatting before that a lot of people think energy transition is a very elitist issue, and we really do see here as well that inclusivity is a very important part of the energy transition process in Indonesia, right?
Yeah.
But before we get to that, maybe we can start off with this hype about energy transition, right? Which has been outlined as a priority issue of G20 for Indonesia this year. And maybe you want to share with our audience here, what is energy transition in your perspective? And you know, where is Indonesia right now in its discussions on energy transition?
Okay, so energy transition is actually a generic terms. I mean, even when it's hype right now to describe a condition, human actually experience energy transition several times. You know, from the prehistorical times when early human are using fire from stones and also from woods, and then we changed to coal, and then we changed to oil, and then to electricity, and etc. There are several periods of energy transition in history in which a whole energy system was completely transformed by several drivers, be that a new source of fuel, or maybe the economical drivers that people inventing something so that people can use energy more efficiently, like James Watt inventing the steam machine so that we can use coal. I actually like to learn about the history of energy, but that's for another time. Our context right now, the energy transition is about moving away from fossil fuel energy and economic system into a more sustainable way, because we have been dependent on fossil fuel for so long, since the coal history in 1800s and 1900s. We moved to oil, and we have realized that the use of fossil fuel has been useful for us for driving all the economic growth and also improvement in our living condition. But then we realized that the use of fossil fuel drive greenhouse gas emission, and then climate crisis and the degradation of environment. And that's why we need to move from that fossil fuels into more sustainable energy and economic system. That's our energy transition for now.
Yeah. So as you mentioned, like actually energy is not a faraway issue for us.
Yes.
It is very close to us. Like we use energy all the time, and basically the type of energy that we use right now affects emissions out there in the world, right? But you know, even thinking about like the household appliances that we use to cook can actually, the type of energy we use to cook at home also is part of the energy transition process, right?
I think people often trapped in jargons like energy transitions, climate crisis, climate change, and etc., without actually knowing that it's happening around us and that we use energy every day. I will say that we have been so far supported by fossil fuel because of everything that we can enjoy for now, electricity, transportation, and etc. And when we move away from that energy that is powering all of our activity. And then we need to think about, can we maintain this type of living condition, good health facilities and etc. The welfare of the people without fossil fuels. And I don't think people want to think about that very deeply, because we use energy every day, and then means if we want to change the source of energy, there is this fear that maybe we will lose something along the way, or that we cannot enjoy our comfortable living condition right now, aircon and etc. Or maybe people who are using it for cooking, then what type of fuel that we need to use after the energy transition. So because it feels the change will impact in our life negatively, and also because of the jargon we use, then people think that this is not the problem that I need to think about. And I think also because we take energy for granted, we really don't think where these lights and air conditioning coming from. We don't feel the pollution, but maybe people in Jakarta felt the pollutions. They still think it's because of the transportation, but many of the air pollution in Indonesia are contributed by industrial activities and also power plants using coal basically.
Yeah. So in short, actually, there maybe is a need for us to have more socializations about what energy transition is and why it matters for all of us, because I think individual actions do matter as well in this sense, right? Individual consciousness and actions. Obviously, they need to need to coalesce together and become like a systemic change, but it all starts with the individual, right?
I'm a little bit torn between individual and systemic change, because I think that someone or some big organization usually use the individual action as to guilt trip people for not doing more. And I really, really hate that, so to say. I would like to use a strong word, because when we use energy, it is very difficult for us to choose energy that's cleaner or more sustainable. In terms of electricity, we only have one choice for now. If you want cleaner and more sustainable energy, then you can put solar panels on your roof. But other than that, people don't have a choice where their energy are coming from. And it means that big corporation and the government has more responsibility to provide cleaner and more sustainable energy, right? And then if we talk about how we influence this big corporation and government, then we need also to talk about how much we understand about the issues, and do we know what we demand from them. And I think what you say about socialization or talk and discussion and discourse, I really want to have more productive discourse about renewable energy and energy transition, rather than labeling people as social justice warriors. I've been called that several times in a degrading way, and sometimes I mind, but sometimes I really felt that it steer away the discussion from the real issue into responsibility of people saying that,
So basically, it all starts with us not being in silo and not calling or labeling each other.
Please, we talk about the issue. We're not talking about the people bringing the issue.
So I think it's very important that we just do not use those labels. We really just engage in productive discussions about what each other needs to do more of. As you mentioned, individual actions can be maybe like a scapegoat, or maybe it's also not sufficient, as you mentioned, right? Maybe people need to have choices, and the choices maybe at this point can only be from the big corporations and from the governments, right? And the government of Indonesia has actually made energy transition as part of its priority for G20, right? And you are very much involved in the discussions, right? So you want to tell us a little bit about your involvement in the G20 discussions on energy transition, and how has the discussions progressed so far?
I think as an organization where I work, for, so energy transition has been the core of our issue for so many years now. I think prior to 2017, so to say, it was very hard to talk about energy transitions because at that time politically was not supportive to have energy transition within their agenda, and then not many people were actually concerned about this issue, so it was really hard to push for the issue back then. And then 2018 and coming to now, culminating in the G20 presidency, I think energy transition has came into priorities for a lot of organization and for a lot of stakeholders. It's just what kind of energy transition that's on their mind. That we need to also understand.
Yeah.
Because when we talk about energy transitions for Indonesia, there's always the issue of just energy transition, how we make the energy transition inclusive, minimize all the negative impact, and also to understand that we are still an emerging economies that need energy to grow. But it doesn't mean that we have to justify the use of fossil fuel in our energy system. And that's what we've been doing with IESR, where I work for now. And because IESR is also part of the Civil 20, the engagement group for civil society organization that's been pushing for more ambitious targets, so to say, for the G20 presidency. So we are very active in the discourse, giving a communique to the government, doing public socialization, press briefing, and etc. Because we want to ensure that for the priorities that our government has set for the energy transition, it really incorporate all the related issue, be that inclusivity or how to make the energy transitions, in a target in a way is more ambitious, and to expose Indonesia that we need a collaboration for many countries because this is costly, but it doesn't mean that it cannot be done.
Yeah. So firstly, I want to appreciate IESR because in my previous job, we do a lot of research and basically, we write a lot of paper and we would always cite IESR's work.
Thank you so much. That's good to know.
So your research was not just a research that's put in the drawer, but it's actually something that we practitioners also use, in the field.
Cool. Thank you for letting us know.
Yeah. And one of the interesting things that you also did is, I think you did you did a training for journalists, right? To basically cover energy transition better, and I think that's very interesting because journalists are a very important part of raising awareness as well. Correct. Right? And so it's very interesting to, basically engage the media as well. So it's not just basically talking to corporations or, community organizations, but also talking to journalists who can help raise awareness about that.
Yeah, as you mentioned previously, because energy is a basic human right for me, because it incorporates, we need energy for our life, everything, be that only daily activities or productive activities. So it means that transition in the energy system will affect many, if not all people and all activities. And I think it is very important for people to, I don't think it's about understanding per se, but people to be aware of this issue, and media, news media, new media, we have a lot of new media right now. It's very important to cover this with their journalistic or balanced coverage principle, because if IESR or me talking about energy transition, that might be biased because of personal observation or the advocacy purpose that we do. But when a journalist or media cover it, then we expect them to also find another information or another perspective that can add into the richness of the discourse.
Yeah. That's very interesting. And I think what the G20 presidency this year helps to at least bring energy transition to the table for it to be discussed and basically, but in your perspective though, like what does a sustainable and equitable energy transition look like in Indonesia? And I know that some people are torn about, for example, the inclusion of nuclear in the new and renewable energy bill draft, and then some people also talk about we should focus on gas first, or just I'm curious as to like what you think in a nutshell is a just sustainable, equitable energy transition is?
This is a very difficult question to answer. I mean, it encompasses a lot of perspective, not only from the technical point of view, but also from the social and economic factor. And I think Indonesia has the potential to go 100% sustainable, in which all the energy sources are from renewable energy. And by renewables, I mean solar, wind, hydro, and by not including new energy such as coal gasification or even nuclear. Sometimes I avoid talking about nuclear because it's and then it always goes to, oh, you're an anti-nuclear person, or you're pro. There is no in between or productive discourse in that. And I think for many people to have different perspective on energy transitions, that's okay. Many of the government organization and also including research organization are also doing their own, calculation, estimation, or pathway for energy transition. In IESR, we believe that by 2050 we can get our energy from 100% renewable energy. But it also means that we need to upgrade our energy system. We need storage. We need participation from people affected by the energy transition. For example, if we no longer use coal, then there will be loss of job or loss of economic growth in several regions, and we have to balance that with new economic diversification. So energy transitions should be just and inclusive, and even if we get challenges or some pro and cons parties along the way, as long as we keep our minds stick that we can actually do this, I think it's fine.
Yeah, that's very good, Chitra. And I think, as you mentioned, there will be people who will always have different opinions or things like that, but it's part of the whole discourse building, right? And I would also encourage our audience who are interested in the topic of energy transition to pursue basically trying to accumulate more knowledge in this space as well, and formulate your own opinion about energy transition.
And I hope that it's an informed opinion, right? Because when we talk about new technologies or maybe energy system specifically for electricity, then sometimes you need to not only learn more or read more, but also to consult expert. This is also not something that my expertise, but we have done several research on energy system in IESR, and technically we believe that that is impossible. Maybe other research will prove different, and I think that's the beauty of the discussion. Right.
That's great. So knowledge accumulation is one thing, but also one that we want to focus on is how to use that knowledge and translate that into jobs, right? That can actually create livelihood for yourself. And right now we're also, there's a hype of like green jobs or like sustainable jobs. True. And I know that you have done a lot of activities on that as well. So what is the definition of green jobs, or at least in your view? And do you think that that is the way of the future, like green jobs? Like,
if I'm asked about the definition, then I'll refer to the ILO definition. That's basically green jobs that jobs that contribute to not to the damage of the environment, but to the betterment of the environment, does not contribute to any damage or pollution to the environment, and also have decent pay, because jobs should have a decent pay and environment as well. And I think more and more jobs right now are promoting the green label. Some of them are actually green jobs, that actually contribute to the environment, but some others are also something that's only being labeled as green jobs because people think that this is the hype that is going on, and more youth, millennials and Gen Z as well are interested in doing green jobs. So we also must be aware about labeling, the same as the social justice warrior. But I think if we talk about green jobs, you should not only think about jobs that directly contributing to, for example, energy transitions or waste management and etc., but also the indirect jobs that helping those direct jobs to make our living condition better from now. So I think if your work is not directly contributed to that, you shouldn't be discouraged or feel, oh, I'm not doing better for the environment. But any job that's having a positive impact to the environment is a green job.
Yeah.
And in the future, I think all jobs should be green jobs.
Yeah. And you're right, because green jobs are not just about those, from the engineering background that can create this, energy storage or energy efficiency mechanisms, but also those that are maybe in communications. They build communications materials promoting awareness in the environment and things like that. So the hope is that all jobs will eventually be green in a sense.
And policymakers.
And policymakers, very important as well. Policymakers, private companies, and community organizations. They all need to be green.
Yes,
to have that mindset. That's great. So we talked a lot about energy transition and about studying abroad, and I think I want to go back again to where it all started, which is Indonesia Mengglobal, right? And how I think the heart of Indonesia Mengglobal is the community, right? And we've talked a lot about how you need to kind of consult experts, you need to be talking to people, and build the informed opinion and things like that. And I think Indonesia Mengglobal is one of those platforms. And do you want to tell us a little bit about the audience, the audience a little bit about Indonesia Mengglobal and the work that it's been doing to basically promote?
Yeah, Indonesia Mengglobal has been around for more than a decade, right? And we've reached a lot of people, millions of people, thousands of articles, hundreds of activities. And I personally, when I was stumbled upon Indonesia Mengglobal when I was in Taiwan, was that why didn't I found the platform like this sooner? Because when I planned to have the study abroad back in 2028, no, everyone knows my age now. It's very hard to find an information that's felt that felt personal, because I mean basic informations, how to what's the procedures and everything, that's not unique. But something telling people what it's like to live there, what's the challenges, how they overcome the challenges, how to network, and etc. It helps us a lot rather than the basic information that we can find. And Indonesia Mengglobal has been very instrumental in providing that, not only for the countries that are popular, so to say, the mainstream countries, Europe and US, but also for other countries that's rarely been heard of, so that people can get more stories out there. And I think when I was in Indonesia Mengglobal, the stories about Taiwan were very limited, and I realized that this is the unique position of Indonesia Mengglobal, to bring about stories from students studying in countries that less known to people, and less major, that's less popular as well.
And one of the strengths of Indonesia Mengglobal, as you mentioned, is these articles that are written by people who have studied abroad or are studying abroad, right? So the stories feel very personal. You can always find a story that would resonate with you. You would always find it because it's written by many different people. And another core strength of Indonesia Mengglobal is the mentorship program, where we basically match people who have studied abroad with those who want to study abroad. So you can basically have deeper interactions and share knowledge with each other, share experiences.
It feels like a close friend, that you can talk about studying abroad. And definitely, if I go for another master or PhD, I'll go for the mentorship program.
The PhD boot camp now.
Sure. So I can get my second PhD.
Great innovation. So Indonesia Mengglobal, outside of telling information about studying abroad full time, they also often promote fellowship opportunities or short-term courses, right? And you yourself, have you taken these fellowship or short courses, or know friends who have taken them, and what do you see is the value add for professionals to take on these fellowships or short courses?
Personally, I have yet to take any fellowship or short course by Indonesia Mengglobal, but I have several friends who are taking that. And what they said to me is that it is very hard to find programs that's not sufficiently long but also not very short to add to their professional competitiveness, and I think Indonesia Mengglobal has provided that, along with a prominent resource person and a program that's very tailored to what Indonesia needs right now. And I think because we have a lot of network of alumni who are still abroad and also who have come back to Indonesia, then it's also very good resource for Indonesia Mengglobal, because then we're relatively young, in terms of age, right? The community. So it feels comfortable to be in that community, because then we have quote unquote similar problems, similar perspective on something because of that age closeness.
Yeah, that's right. I think, even when you're already working, I think it always is a value add if you can add to your network and add more knowledge by interacting with seniors and peers within the space. And it's why I'm very excited also that Indonesia Mengglobal is partnering with us here at Pijar Foundation. Indonesia Mengglobal is supporting the publication of our Global Future Fellows program that basically seeks to target mid-career leaders, professionals who are from public, private, and community sectors. So what we try to do is promote the spirit of collaborative governance. So basically how we can solve problems quicker and better through more dialogues together, with more togetherness from all of these different sectors. So the applications for Global Future Fellows is open until 28th of August, and thank you to Indonesia Mengglobal for helping to promote this publication.
Could I apply actually?
You can. And we see that your profile very much fits with what we're looking for. So we hope that you will apply, Chitra, as well as other people who are in the energy transition space. Oh, the theme is energy transition. The full theme is safeguarding Indonesia's energy transition. And basically we want to, as we already talked about, try to get a sense of, what is Indonesia's trajectory when it comes to just and sustainable energy transition. What does that look like for the Indonesian context? And what kind of collaborations between public, private, and community sectors need to be devised to basically achieve those targets?
Yeah, we need that a lot, because I think with the energy transition becoming government's priorities for G20, we also need to keep the momentum post G20. And we're heading into a political year and the election. If we can put this energy transition agenda as one of the political priorities for new president and new governors, etc., I think would be great, because then it can manifest truly through the leaders and also through the policy making process.
So 2022, there's definitely momentum for energy transition, but as you mentioned, it's discussing, but not just finishing there, but actually what will we do beyond 2022, right?
True.
And basically, we need to make the political years productive for the conversation of energy transition.
Please, no more identity politics. Let's talk about energy transition.
Let's talk substance here. And for everyone who is interested in energy transition issue, when it comes to pursuing their education opportunities, please do check out indonesiamengglobal.com and their Instagram at Indonesia Mengglobal. They always have these activities where you can basically interact with peers and experts who have already studied abroad, and there are a lot of articles, I'm sure, about energy transition. And
I think studying energy transition will encompass engineering and then social and economic. So definitely a lot of major think about and sector to work in.
Like my background is also international relations, and a lot of my friends actually pursue like energy policy.
Okay, cool.
And so as you mentioned, like energy transition is not just for engineers, it's for the broader broader set of people, basically. Their energy is close to your heart. You will use energy every single day.
Yes. It's a basic human right. So please help us to make the transition in Indonesia to get to more sustainable and cleaner energy system with a just and inclusive way.
Thank you very much, Chitra. It has been a very wonderful
you
and
so much.
insightful conversation. And I thank Indonesia Mengglobal once again for bringing us together.
Yes.
And very grateful to have had you as my editor-in-chief back then. Really,
It has been a long time since we meet and interact, and I'm really proud to have you in my team and to see how our interaction in Indonesia Mengglobal has, put that together in this moment, and to collaborate more, Pijar Foundation, Indonesia Mengglobal, and also IESR
Yeah.
probably.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Chitra.
Yeah.
And thank you, Indonesia Mengglobal. Thank you, IESR. And thank you to Pijar Foundation as well.
Thank you.
This is Global Future Talks, special episode with Indonesia Mengglobal with Marlistya Citraningrum. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye, everyone.